Hi, and thanks for stopping by Run Tall with Tim. I'm Tim. I hope you're having a great day. On today's video, I'm going to be comparing two shoes from New Balance. They're Max Cushion Daily Trainers, and it's the 1080 V11 versus the More V3. Now, both of these shoes feature their Fresh Foam X midsole material, which is really soft, cushioned, but yet responsive and a lot of fun to run in. But before I get into it too far, I always like to demonstrate what it looks like to run in the shoes that I'm about to review for you. So let's do that. But then when we come back together, I'm going to be comparing the 1080 V11 with the More V3 to try to answer the question, which shoe is right for you? Now, this video is not intended to be a full review of either shoe, but if you want to check that out, I'll put a link in the description below to reviews that I've completed for each of them previously. If you're new to the channel, I post running shoe reviews, comparisons, and shoe battles weekly. I also like to post other videos related to running, so if you enjoy watching running shoe reviews and other videos about running, be sure to subscribe to the channel and click the notification bell so you'll be notified each time that I upload new content. Now, both of these shoes are considered to be neutral road shoes. I did order them both true to size. The 1080 V11 is a little bit less expensive. They came in at $150 US. They also weigh just a little bit less. They weighed 9.3 ounces for a men's size 9 on my scales, or 265 grams. Now, the More V3s, they cost $165 US. They weigh 10.1 ounces, again for men's size 9 on my scales, or 286 grams. Now, comparing the upper on these two, I'm going to start with the 1080 V11. And here you can see that they used a stretch knit material up in the toe box. Now, that is really stretchy. If I grab a hold of it and just pull on it, you can see how much stretch there is, although it's really comfortable. And interestingly enough, I feel like the 1080 V11 does feel a bit more narrow up in the forefoot of the shoe and through to the midsection as well. But then as we work our way around to the side of the shoe, that stretch knit material does lose that stretch. Now that allows you to get a nice solid lockdown feeling through the midfoot section of the shoe using your lace enclosure system. And then as we work our way around to the heel counter, you can see that they changed up material there as well in building that ultra heel system where they used a neoprene style of material. Turning now and looking at the More V3, here we can see that they used an engineered mesh material, lots of perforations up in the toe box. And then as we turn and we work our way back around to the side of the shoe, you can see much like the 1080 V11, the midsection has a bit of a plastic overlay, and that's so that you can get a nice secure lockdown feeling across the midfoot section of the shoe. I was able to achieve that with the More V3. just as I was in the 1080 V11. Then as we work our way around to the heel counter, slightly different. This is a more classic shoe design or classic upper. And you can see that they did add some additional material back here around that heel counter to give you a little extra stability there to help hold your heel in place. The eyelet chain on the 1080 V11, I'd say it's classic. There's no big wow factor here. They did include a lot of plastic overlay both on the outside as well as on the inside cage area to give it both some durability, but also to stiffen up that material so that you can achieve a nice secure lockdown feeling across your midfoot section of the shoe. And then you can see here that they also included that extra eyelet in case you want to run with a runner's knot. I don't always put a runner's knot in, but it's sure nice to have that option should I wish to do so. And then as we look at the More V3, we can see that that is kind of a classic shoe design with a twist. So you can see that third and fourth eyelet are loops. But other than that, I'd say it's a pretty standard eyelet chain. And they too included the extra eyelet in case you want to run with a runner's knot. Now the tongue on the 1080 V11, I would say it's kind of a semi-booty. It's got a booty construction all the way up to about the third eyelet, but then it moves into a semi-gusset there towards the top. Now it's what I would say moderately padded, so it's not overly done, but it does feel really comfortable. I didn't have any issues with it migrating around. It laid flat on my feet, and I didn't feel the laces on the top of my midfoot at all. And then as we take a look at the More V3, now here, they have a well-padded tongue. It is much more padding than you'll find in the 1080 V11. It's really comfortable. It's not gusseted at all, but they do have some nice wings that lay flat across my midfoot. And again, I didn't feel the laces cutting into the top of my foot at all. But between these two, I would say that the upper on the 1080 V11 does run a bit cooler underfoot. And I think a part of the reason is because of the tongue design. Now with the More V3, it is a much more padded tongue and it doesn't allow quite as much airflow to keep you cool and comfortable when you're out running. Now looking at the padding around the heel collar and the tab, they couldn't be more different. With the 1080 V11, New Balance has this neoprene style of material with virtually no padding around the heel collar and the tab. Although it is comfortable to run in, the only issue that I had, and I mentioned this a few times before in other videos when I've talked about this shoe, is that I need to make sure that I'm wearing socks that come up at least as high as the collar of the shoe. If not, I do get a little bit of irritation or rubbing on my ankles. And that can be a bit bothersome. Nobody wants that. So besides that, I found it to be pretty comfortable. Now, I do feel like I can get locked in or feel a little bit more secure in that heel cup in the More V3 than I do in the 1080 V11. And I think the biggest reason for that is they have a more well-defined heel cup for your heel to set in or rest in. So let's take a look at how they've designed that. And here we can see that they have a real classic style of padding. And I prefer this over that ultra heel design that they have in the 1080 V11. Again, it's a great shoe, but when we compare the two, I prefer this style. And you can see they've just got tons of padding up around that heel collar as well as on the tab. They have a nice little notch there for your Achilles to rest in. I found it all to be really comfortable on foot. And then you can see that they have a slight Achilles heel flare there. That also feels comfortable to run in. Now comparing the heel counter on both of these shoes, there's quite a bit of difference here. With the 1080 V11, I'm going to give it the pinch test, and here you can see that they have a moderate amount of structure there, and they used this neoprene style of material to build that heel counter. And also the Fresh Foam X midsole material comes up just a slight ways or just a little ways up on that counter. Now that does add a little bit of a stable feeling to your heel when you're out running, but it pales in comparison to what they did in the More V3. As I put this up on my shoulder, first thing you're going to notice is that the entire heel design is way, way different than the 1080 V11. It's a real classic heel counter. They did have or add some extra material here around that starts on the medial side and runs through to the lateral side of the shoe. And as I give it the pinch test, we can see that it has, I would say, probably about the same in terms of structure as I pinch it together. But the big difference is just how high they came up with that Fresh Foam X midsole material. So you can see that they come up pretty darned high on that heel counter area. And why is that so important here? Or why does that make such a big difference? It's because your heel is just nestled down inside that foam, and it just wraps your heel and gives you a really stable feeling when you're out running. Now both shoes feature their Fresh Foam X midsole material. With the 1080 V11, they have 34 millimeter stack height in the heel, and then they have 26 millimeters up in the forefoot. So they've got an 8 millimeter offset from the heel to the toe. With the More V3, there's just a lot more of it. Here they've got a 38 millimeter stack height in the heel and 34 millimeters in the forefoot for just a 4 millimeter offset from the heel to the toe. Now both of these shoes are considered to be max cushion daily trainers, but to me there's a difference between max cushion and plush. Now I would say that the 1080 V11 definitely falls into the max cushion, where the More V3 is that plush max cushion shoe. There's just so much more of that Fresh Foam X midsole material that it just feels almost cloud-like. There's a lot of bounce to it. They're just super comfortable to run in. Looking at the geometry of that midsole material, I'd say it's pretty close to the same. So let's start and we'll look at the heel, and we can see how far out that they came with that Fresh Foam X midsole material. So just a little ways, and that's nice if you're a heel striker especially, because it gives you some nice cushion to land in. And then they also have a nice heel bevel here. I wouldn't say that it's overly aggressive, but there's plenty there to help make you feel smooth or natural as you move through your gait cycle and you strike the ground. And then they have a bit more of an aggressive rocker than what you would find in a classic style running shoe here, but that feels terrific. Now I would say, as I mentioned, that it's pretty much on par or the same with the More V3. Here you can see that they did extend that Fresh Foam X midsole material out. They have a nice heel bevel here. There's just more of that foam. And then they too have about the same amount of rocker in terms of the geometry of that midsole in the More V3 as they do in the 1080 V11. So I want to flip these over and take a look at the landing platform on each of these for a quick second here. And starting with the 1080 V11, you can see that they have a pretty decent sized landing platform up in the forefoot of the shoe. The biggest difference falls in the midsection to the heel. And here you're going to see here in a second that this is much more narrow in the middle section of the shoe as well as in the heel than it is in the More V3. That also translates to how the upper fits and feels across your midfoot section of the shoe. Because with that more narrow landing platform here, that means that that upper material is also more narrow across there. So it's going to feel a little bit more snug, or again, a bit more narrow in that section of the shoe. And then as we take a look at the More V3, here you can see that they've got a much wider landing platform, especially in the midsection to the heel of the shoe. Still feels really comfortable. It just doesn't feel quite as snug or narrow across the midfoot section as it does in the 1080 V11. So let's take a look at the outsole, beginning with the 1080 V11 first. And here you can see that they have plenty of blown rubber all the way from the heel through to your toe off. They also feature these flex grooves, and that's just to help you feel a little bit more natural as you flow through your gait cycle. It's a pretty thin layer, but I think it's more than adequate to give you a little bit of traction and some added durability. Looking at the More V3 now, here again they have plenty of blown rubber in all of those high abrasion areas from your heel through to your toe off. It too features those flex grooves to help you feel a bit more natural as you flow through your gait cycle. I'd say that there's a little bit more of it on the More V3 than there is on the 1080 V11, but I think in both cases there's plenty of rubber there, again, to give you some traction and add some durability to the shoes. So to answer the question, which shoe is right for you? Well, if you're looking for a shoe that's a little less expensive, that's lighter, more nimble, and faster on foot, then the 1080 V11 is going to be the right choice between these two. But if you're looking for the most plush run experience that you can get, and comfort is king for you, and you just want to log a lot of miles, but not necessarily worry about picking up the pace so much, then definitely go with the More V3. So thanks for making it to the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed it. I enjoyed making it for you. As always, run tall, run strong, be kind to one another. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.